Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Science of Spirit. And today's podcast is going to be on Bashar's space-time antenna. Now, this is something that he has talked about for several years. And I honestly don't know how many different transmissions, he's discussed this. There was, I think, a main one, which was in Bashar's lab. And I'm sure most of you that are interested in building this device have probably already heard that transmission. Now, it is included at the beginning of this whole podcast because some people may not have even heard it. And what I'm trying to do is get several different transmissions where he discussed this antenna and put them all together, so it makes it a little bit easier. So this is from a couple of other different transmissions. One of them, I'm sorry to say, I didn't pay any attention to where I got it from. I've had it for a long time because I was trying to gather information on this subject as well. The last part of this is from Earth Zero, which is a really good transmission. I highly recommend downloading it and getting it. But I am taking the excerpt where he just talks about the space-time antenna from there. There's a fellow who was asking more questions. So that is what this is going to be, and hopefully it'll give you enough information to maybe get started with this, because there are some certain parameters that have to be followed. And then I think it's just a matter of experimentation, and I think that's what he's trying to get all of us to do. So that gives you kind of an idea of what this is about. So here's what Bashar has to say about the space-time antenna. It is a device that actually uses space-time energy that you can learn to translate into different forms of energy if you wish. Electricity or light or heat or whatever you wish to do with it. This space-time antenna actually takes the form of a graph of the two intersecting cones. Okay, he had a graph where he just had two intersecting cones showed up there. So when you imagine in your mind right now, let's say made out of spiral copper tube or wire, imagine starting on the ground, bringing the tube around a circle and spiraling it upward, getting smaller and smaller in circumference until you're describing a cone. You're spiraling up to the tip of the cone. However height you want the cone to be, or however wide you want it, doesn't matter right now for the purpose of this illustration. It does later on, though. It will matter later in terms of the tuning of the geometry to get the right effect, but right now, for the purpose of this illustration, starting at the ground, start spiraling your tube around and around, smaller and smaller until you have a cone made out of a spiral tube. At the top, or at the very tip of the cone, you take that tube and move it out to the same diameter as the base of the cone and start spiraling your way back down through the other cone. So when you spiral it up, leave some gaps in between the tube so that when you spiral down, you can go through those gaps and actually have the two cones interpenetrating until you get all the way down inside the base of the first cone, creating a downward facing cone, and you get down to the tip at the bottom, and then you bring that out and connect it to the base of the other cone. Now you have two interpenetrating cones, one facing up and one pointing down. In a sense, it's almost like the idea of the Solomon's seal, or what you call the Jewish star. A six-pointed star, if you look at it flat on, will sort of appear a little bit like this idea, although not quite exactly. But it's the idea of two interpenetrating triangles. When you create this kind of a resonant device, and you do it where the cones are actually angled at their apices at 33 degrees, you will be able to actually have a space-time antenna. Depending on the quality of your material, the number of windings, the size of the cone, and what have you, and other conditions, you can actually cause this cone with a little bit of an electrical charge to start resonating at a certain frequency that will amplify that energy by drawing down from space-time energy and thus then giving out more energy than you are putting in. Have fun with this, or simply imagine it and play with what that shape does when you get it in your mind's eye in terms of opening you up to other levels of communication. Because you can use it that way too, and you don't have to physicalize it to get an effect within your own consciousness, but you can physicalize it in order to get an effect in physical reality. If you also do it in your mind and you see that shape in your mind, if you can also learn to view it three-dimensionally and start turning it, rotating it in your mind, and see it in different angles, that will absolutely heighten and increase your ability to tap into other dimensional frequencies as well. So then someone started asking questions. Question: how does the idea in the graph translate into the reality of the physical movement? Answer: you are expressing the idea of how reality actually creates more reality. It creates it through an expanding spiral modality. It is partly a description of the actual geometric form that the single particle moves along to create all of the things it creates. So you are tapping into the underlying form, the underlying template that the single particle uses to expand all of creation on the sacred spiral. Make sense? And he said, I'll take that as a no. The idea is an idea of expansion. The idea is also that in physical reality, you experience things cyclically. So the combination of a spiral expanding in cycles is the idea of a cone. Does that make sense? That gives you an actual device or a shape that taps directly into how things actually grow and expand. And thus you are tapping into a natural template by using that form. Does that make sense? Answer: yes, it does. This person asked then which way the spiral goes. Well, they must not have thought about that too carefully. Clockwise or counterclockwise? And his answer was clockwise for you. So then, in another transmission, a man had begun to work and experiment with this double cone, and he actually brought one to the transmission and showed everybody. Okay, he brought it and he said he brought a device that was made exactly as Bashar described. Bashar said it's not exactly because it is not insulated yet. So it needs to be insulated. Okay, question. My question for you is basically, how does this thing work? Answer: it is to some degree the essence of what you call a capacitor and a transformer. The idea is that once you initiate a certain kind of electrical current through it, you allow it to become vibrationally sensitive because of its shape to higher frequency energies, which are then, in a sense, harmonically attracted to it and begin coursing along the same route. Once the higher frequency energies begin coursing along the same route, it sets up a self-reinforcing vibration that then can be amplified in a variety of ways and transformed, stepped down and transformed into electrical energy or various kinds of energy that you can tap and use for your devices on your planet. Question: so basically I need to kickstart it with a pulse, an AC or DC pulse, probably AC pulse? Answer: yes. So then, question, so then it will start resonating? Answer: yes. And it will in a sense drive itself? Answer: yes. Question, from which then I can start tapping energy off of it? Answer: yes. Now this is the very beginning and the very, very early experimentational form. This will improve and become more sophisticated, but first it is necessary to do the basic experimentations at this level in order to then see that you are getting some effect, which will then guide you to the next state of refining it. Question: on that note, there are quite a lot of inventors out there that have things that work, and they are in the basic stages trying to figure things out too. Answer: yes, I know. Question: and this is the Essassani approach? Answer: yes. Okay, got it. Question: what is the energy that it is resonating with? You said it is a higher frequency energy? Answer: yes. Question: energy from what or where? Answer: from what has been euphemistically referred to as the template level reality. or what sometimes you refer to as the lower astral plane. So that was all from that transmission, but then there's another one that I'm including here. He tells you how to build it again, but he has some additional information, so that's what is here next. And I don't know what transmission this is from, sorry. Bashar then goes on to state, the electromagnetic field of your own planet can supply you with all of the electricity necessary. One of the first devices that will allow you to tap more directly into the electromagnetic field and convert it into energy is as follows. Have a piece of heavy insulated copper wire. Create a cone shape with the wire. Once you take it to a smaller diameter, then take it to a larger diameter similar to the diameter you have in the first cone, and wind it back to the other cone and connect it to the other piece where you started. You have two interpenetrating cones. This is the first component of a device that will allow you to tap into the electromagnetic field and convert it directly into different kinds of energy. In order to have any effect in this reality at all, this device must stand at least as large as, or it must be able to fit precisely underneath an imaginary three-sided pyramid that is 3 feet tall. Has to be at least that tall. Now, this next part comes from the transmission of Earth Zero, which is a really great transmission to listen to. And this is a guy who's just asking questions of Bashar, and I guess he's in the process of creating this, although he doesn't seem to necessarily know what he's doing. So here's that now. Question, I'd like to ask you about the space-time antenna. Answer, yes. Question. So we've constructed one 33 degrees and 33 turns. The top peak of one cone and the base of the other cone are connected at one end and open on the other. And it's made out of 1/8 inch copper tubing. Bashar, all right. Answer, so you're saying there are two interpenetrating coils. One up and one down, and they're connected at each end? Question, they're connected at one end. Answer, why at one end and not the other? Answer, I don't know. That's what I'm asking. Should they be connected at both ends? Answer, yes. Question, okay. Answer, one coil is the other coil. Question, so they must be connected at both ends. Answer, yes, or you won't have a complete circuit. Will you? Question, no, that's what I'm asking. Answer, thank you. Question, my colleague has made it that way with only one end, so that's why I'm asking. Answer, well, that's not the original description that we gave. Question, okay, well, that's why I'm asking the question. Answer, well, now we have answered. Question, then how do we energize this coil? Answer, you can attach an electrical source to it and give it a kickstart. Answer, okay, where would you attach it? Answer, on the coil. It doesn't matter. Anywhere you can attach it. Just give it a kickstart. Question, well, if current's going to flow, it has to have two connections. Answer, what I'm saying is you're bringing in an energy source, a battery or what have you, and you are connecting the two leads to the coil at different places. Question, okay, to the two coils, but essentially then you have a short. Bashar, one up and one down. The coils are insulated, are they not? Answer, no. And then Bashar says, well, they have to be. We told you that. Therefore, if they're insulated, connecting the lead to one and then the other will give it the kickstart it needs. Question, but you just said they are shorted to each other, the cones? Answer from Bashar, yes, I understand, but you're dealing with something different here than your normal technology. The very shape of the thing itself will cause a different phenomena to happen. Question, but we can induce a current with an inductive field. Answer, then by all means do it that way. Question, but if it's insulated, there's no place to hook the battery on. Answer, there are ways to do it with the battery, but if you have the ability to use an inductive field, then by all means use it. Then that would be more efficient. Until you tell us what level you're at, we have to start at the very basics. Question, we're capable of a lot more than what I have said. Answer, well then do what you are capable of and that will take you further. Question, we can do an inductive source, but if there's a bare spot on the copper, we can hook up a battery. Answer, all right, but again, you have said that the inductive source is something that you are capable of doing, and therefore it would be more efficient and allow you to experience the effects in a larger and more efficient and more measurable way. Question, and then how would you extract energy from this? Answer, we will talk about that later when you first induce a current and measure what effects that you get from that. We just need to take it one step at a time. So, what I have gathered from these transmissions on how to build this is there are some very definite things you have to do. First of all, it has to be insulated tubing or wire, I'm assuming. It needs to be at least 3 feet tall and fit precisely under a 3-sided 3-foot pyramid, or maybe taller. You have to induce a current through it. Anyway, it sounds like that you can do that. And then see what kind of an effect you get. Are you getting is it more of a magnetic thing? Is it electronic? Or something else? Could be interesting. I would really love to put one of these together. However, I have absolutely no place to go with it. And I don't know what kind of energy it's producing. We don't know if microwave transmissions running through your house or your home, Wi-Fi, that sort of thing, if they have an effect on this, don't know. It'd be nice to have a clean place to be able to do something, to put one of these together. But I'm hoping people will experiment around with this, because I think sometimes the people who aren't classically trained don't have the blocks to doing this, that, and the other thing. They'll just put things together and just to see what the heck happens. Whereas some of the people who are, electronics experts and that sort of thing might be going along those parameters and saying, well, no, this can't possibly work, that sort of thing. But I think an electronical engineer or somebody after the fact, once one of us gets this to work, would be hugely helpful. So if I run into any more information on this that he's updated, there could be still something from some transmission a long time ago that I've missed. If I find that, I will add it in another podcast so that we can get something that's all together and fairly concise on how to build this thing and see what happens. So if any of you guys decide to do this, let's keep it an open source project, because I figure Bashar is giving this out freely to everybody to try it. So I think we owe it to him to mess with it, see what we get, and share it. Because I know there are those people who are going to be wanting to go, oh, okay, now I've got this and I'll patent it and it'll be mine, all mine. But really and truly, the best thing for everybody and the planet would be to freely give this away. Doesn't mean you still couldn't manufacture something. There's plenty of people who have no intention of building something like this at all. They just want to buy it. So there's always still room to be able to, earn a living or something like that for those who have money in mind. But I think really being able to nail this down and give it away would be phenomenal. So that's what I'm doing this in the spirit of. I could hang on to this information too and not hand it out to anybody. Not that I have a whole lot more than what you've heard before, but I have a lot of input I could put into this, but I do need to try it out first before I give you that information, because with what I know about capacitors, which I'm pretty well versed with, that energy, it's nothing to really play around with if you're really going to have a large capacitance from something. And as far as transformers go, I'd have to find out more about that, for stepping down the energy. Or do you want to step it up? Don't know. A lot remains to be seen. And another aspect of this is finding a way to wind that coil. To me, you're going to have some kind of a template in order to get that coil wound up. As you can see on this podcast, I have put a picture up of the coil that was made by somebody that I think is correct as far as what Bashar has detailed. And that is what the coil looks like in that one transmission that that fellow brought to the actual seminar, and Bashar was there. So some kind of a template would be needed in order to wind the coil or the wire around it and get it pretty precise so it's not all bent up and kind of weird. And it needs to be stiff enough to hold its shape. So that's really about all I have to say. I hope you guys like this, and I hope somebody out there actually gives it a try. Build one and see what happens, and leave a comment below, please. I'm dying to know what this is actually capable of doing, but I think it's capable of doing a lot and possibly capable of producing something that we're not expecting. Who knows? Thank you everyone for listening, and if you like these podcasts and you're listening on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe and hit the bell for the notifications. Also, I am available now on Anchor, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Radio Public, and Spotify. Thank you for listening, and I'll be back soon.